It's Tuesday, January 18. This is the news on PBCJ. I'm Simone Absalom Gale. Effective Wednesday, January 19, 2022, Jamaica's public hospitals will be restricted to conducting emergency care services only. This comes as several of the island's public hospitals face increased pressure due to the growing number of confirmed and suspected COVID-19 cases. There is also decreased staff coverage as many healthcare workers are out sick. Up to Sunday, there were 682 persons in hospital isolation for COVID-19. Of that number, 486 were positive and another 196 suspected. In a release from the Health and Wellness Ministry, Portfolio Minister Dr. Christopher Tufton is quoted as saying, "All our hospitals are seeing increased numbers, and several of the larger hospitals are over 90% capacity, with some over 100%. End quote. Elective cases are being postponed. Members of the public are advised to wait for new dates for those procedures. The Statistical Institute of Jamaica, Statin, says Jamaica's unemployment rate has decreased, with the latest report showing a 7.1% drop in October 2021. Statin's Director General, Carol Coy, in a virtual brief, reported that 76,600 more people were employed in October 2021 compared to the year before.
These persons were engaged in economic activities for at least 1 hour during the September 19 to 25 reference week. Females recorded the larger increase in employment. The number of employed females grew by 8.5% to 568,600, while for employed males the increase was 5.1% to 676,200.
Despite the decrease, Ms. Coy pointed out that the current unemployment rate trails pre-pandemic figures.
Most industries showed an increase in employment in October 2021. The largest increase in employment of 23.1% was in real estate and other business services, moving to 130,500 persons. This was followed by arts, entertainment, recreation, and other services, which increased by 15.3% to 111,500 persons, and construction, which went up by 13.2% to 113,900 persons.
Youth unemployment rate is also trending down.
The youth unemployment rate declined by 9.3 percentage points to 18.9% relative to October 2020. There was a larger decline in female youth unemployment. The unemployment rate for females was 21.6%, down 12.3 percentage points.
Ms. Coy was speaking on Monday at Statin's quarterly press briefing. And more on the economic front, as Jamaica's export earnings have increased to 26.3%. That's based on Statin's survey of the January and September 2021 period. Director General of the Statistical Institute of Jamaica, Carol Coy, gave a breakdown of the numbers during Statin's quarterly press briefing on Monday.
Jamaica generated calendar year export earnings of $1.15 billion between January and September 2021. This outturn represents a 26.3% increase over the US $910.7 million recorded for the corresponding period in 2020.
The increase in exports was driven mainly by mineral fuels, which rose by 96.8%. Earnings from domestic exports increased by 18.4% to $1 billion and accounted for 89.6% of total exports.
She says exports from the manufacturing industry increased by 32.1%.
Due mainly to higher exports of refined petroleum products and food, beverages, and tobacco. Earnings from the mining and quarrying industry was 6.2% above that in the comparable 2020 period due to higher exports of alumina.
Ms. Coy says agricultural exports also increased.
Exports from the agriculture industry increased by 7.5%, due mainly to increased exports of yam and coffee.
The nation's import bills have increased as well, with a price tag of $4.2 million.
The increase in total imports was largely attributable to higher imports of consumer goods, which went up by 9.5%, raw materials or intermediate goods, which increased by 22.2%, and fuel and lubricants, which increased by 62.2%.
The Staten executive notes, however, that spending on imports has not yet returned to pre-coronavirus pandemic levels. In the corresponding period 2019, imports were valued at $4.85 billion.
Jamaica has entered a strategic alliance with international tourism giant Grupo Peru, which owns Bahia Principe hotels and resorts, to promote inclusive and sustainable economic growth through tourism in Jamaica and the Dominican Republic. The agreement will result in an investment of $200 million in Grupo Peru's Bahia resorts in both countries. In a release, Tourism Minister Edmund Bartlett, who was in Spain at the official launch, said the agreement was possible as the three institutions share the belief that tourism can help local economies grow while simultaneously encouraging inclusive and sustainable tourism. During his visit to Madrid, the minister will meet with potential investors and key industry stakeholders. Mayor of Kingston, Senator Councillor Delroy Williams, says his team and its partners are working towards repositioning Kingston as a destination city. One strategy is facilitating building projects while working to ensure building codes are being followed. To this end, he announced some changes during his contribution to the State of the Nation debate in the Upper House last Friday.
Mayor of Kingston, Senator Delroy Williams, says his team is aware of the KSAMC's role on the nation's growth agenda, and they are working with their partners to revitalize Kingston.
We have seen a steady increase in visitors and arrivals and unprecedented investment from hoteliers. But not just hoteliers, Jamaican hoteliers in the capital city.
While voicing his support for infrastructural developments, the mayor announced that all building projects approved by the Kingston and St. Andrew Municipal Corporation will be subject to mandatory inspection.
A mandatory inspection for once every 3 months. We also said that there ought to be inspections at different stages of development, separate from the mandatory inspection. So when you're past the foundation stage, that's an inspection. And for every single floor you go, we had to have an inspection before you move on.
He says the KSAMC has written to the Prime Minister for an overhaul of the building and planning approvals processes.
The planning department in its current state has a director of planning and a secretary on the establishment. That is, in these days and in the environment that we are in, that is not appropriate to deal with the demands placed on the KSAMC from the public. So we have asked the most honorable minister with responsibility for planning to look at the restructuring of the planning department. We have made our proposal in terms of the creation of 2 units, the Sustainable Planning Implementation and Monitoring Unit and the Development Applications Management Unit.
Mayor Williams told the Senate that the Chief Engineering Officer will be required to submit on the last working day of each month a detailed list of building projects taking place across the municipality.
We should include everything, inspections, breaches, actions taken, and so forth. Every single month we have asked for that. We have also asked that no application should come to the committee without the notice of intent to construct evidenced, so that we know that the residents would have been aware of the intent to build.
He notes that the strict inspection regime would address many of the breaches that are found far into the building process.
Head of the Jamaica Constabulary Force JCF, Major General Anthony Anderson, says the 6th Zone of Special Operations, declared in Parade Gardens in Kingston, is yielding some progress.
The heavy deployment of the police and military as the joint force, along with a suite of operational activities in surrounding areas, has had the desired effect of reducing the freedom of action of gangs and thereby reducing, to some degree, the fear within the community. 18 of the 20 persons of interest we were seeking have been interviewed, and 2 remain in custody. We are also seeing signs of former rivals willing to come to speak to each other when facilitated by us.
The ZOSO was declared by Prime Minister Andrew Holness on January 9 and will be in place for 60 days. Major General Anderson was speaking at a virtual press conference on Sunday where another zone of special operations was declared for southern Savannah Lamar in Westmoreland. We now get the latest financial market updates from Gabriel Thompson.
In foreign exchange trading for Monday, January 17, the US dollar sold for an average $156.29. The Canadian dollar ended trading at $124.11. The pound sterling traded for $211.31, and the euro sold for an average $178.13. In Monday's trading session, the following reflect the movement of the JSE indices. The JSE index advanced by 2,047 points to close at under 400,000 units. The junior market index advanced by 32 points to close at over 3,000 units. The JSE combined market index advanced by 2,222 points to close at over 400,000 units. The JSE All Jamaican Composite Index advanced by 2,000 points to close at over 400,000 units. The JSE Financial Index advanced by 1 point to close at over 97 units, and the JSE Manufacturing and Distribution Index declined by 0.09 points to close at over 101 units. Overall market activity resulted from trading in 104 stocks, of which 49 advanced, 38 declined, and 16 traded firm. Stocks advanced for 138 Student Living Jamaica Limited, Access Financial Services Limited, and AMG Packaging and Paper Company Limited. Stocks declined for Burrita Investments Limited, Blue Power Group Limited, and Caribbean Cream Limited. Trading firm were 1834 Investments Limited, Caribbean Flavors and Fragrances Limited, and Community and Workers of Jamaica CCU Deferred Share. Wigton Wind Farm Limited Ordinary Shares was the volume leader with over 2.3 million units, followed by Future Energy Source Company Limited Ordinary Shares with over 1.9 million units, and JMMB Group Limited with over 1.9 million units. In market data for oil, the commodity was up on Tuesday morning in Asia, reacting to a series of drone strikes on the United Arab Emirates that were attributed to Yemen's Houthi group. Brent oil futures rose 0.99% to $87.34 a barrel after hitting a high of $87, the highest since October 30, 2014, earlier in the session. West Texas Intermediate crude futures jumped 1.34% to $84.42, not far from a more than 2-month high of $84.78 hit earlier. However, trade on Monday was subdued due to the holiday in the U.S. And with that, we close this Tuesday edition of the Business Report Inside the News on PBCJ. I'm Gabrielle Thompson. Pleasant viewing.
In news from across the region, we begin in Trinidad and Tobago, where the Ministry of Health's head of epidemiology, Dr. Avery Hines, says the Twin Island state can anticipate even higher numbers of persons contracting the COVID-19 virus. Terrian Brown Campbell reports.
With hundreds of persons contracting the COVID-19 virus every day and dozens dying, the Ministry of Health is preparing for even higher numbers. This from the Ministry of Health's head of epidemiology, Dr. Avery Hines.
So we haven't yet seen that the beginnings of the increase that we are bracing for with regard to the Omicron variant, but we continue to advise the population to brace because we do know that we've seen in other jurisdictions the kind of havoc that that very rapidly transmissible variant has wrought upon much bigger health systems.
Dr. Hines, speaking at Monday's Ministry of Health media briefing, reiterates that greater numbers of the unvaccinated are being affected.
There was a 15.6-fold increase compared to the vaccinated. So those individuals who were unvaccinated had a death rate that was 15.6 times higher. So there were about 40.69 deaths for every 10,000 unvaccinated individuals.
Dr. Hines says this is compared to 2.61 deaths per 10,000 persons among the vaccinated. Terry-Ann Brown Campbell, TTT News.
Though there has been some amount of planned power outages over the past few days as the Guyana Power and Light temporarily shut down the massive Garden of Eden power plant, the company's chief executive officer promises fewer blackouts as it has tapped into more of its older machinery to meet customers' demands.
This is the massive Garden of Eden power plant on the east bank of Demerara. Now, officials and technicians at the Guyana Power and Light GPL fear some massive explosion could occur, and so last Friday they started a gradual shutdown of the operations here. Now, of course, this is a massive plant. It provides about 46.5 megawatts of power to the Demerara-Burrowes interconnected system, and so with the powering down of this system, that would result in some amount of power outages as GPL rushes to engage in what is known as load shedding, which is gradually reducing the amount of power it supplies the grid with. Now, on Monday, the Chief Executive Officer of GPL, Mr. Bart Dindial, told the newsroom that even though GPL does not have this power plant providing power to the grid, it has been able to tap into some of its older machinery to still meet the power demand of Guyanese who are the consumers of GPL.
Well, we are working. There are machines which have been on maintenance. There are machines which were waiting to undergo maintenance. We are actually trying to do as much as we could do, and I think by today we should have all the capacity that we could potentially access now. Should be on today. Last night I think there wasn't any load shedding.
Okay.
There is one machine, a 2.5 megawatt machine that's skilled and there is ongoing maintenance currently. We're trying to see what could be done to accelerate that.
Now, even though the CEO has assured Guyanese that there will be fewer blackouts because the company has the capacity to sort of meet the power demand, the CEO also says that a team from Wärtsilä, which was the company contracted to construct and operate this plant, is here in Guyana investigating what is possibly causing the issues experienced at the Garden of Eden power plant.
So there are a team of 7 persons here, but there is another team overseas spread around different parts of the globe where Wärtsilä has spares warehouses. Who are also part of the overall effort, and there's some senior Wärtsilä executives who are also involved.
Now, with the team of engineers here on the ground investigating the issues at the power plant and trying to really identify and then solve the issues that could potentially lead to a massive explosion, Mr. Dindial pointed out that a legal team at GPL is also reviewing the contract that GPL has with Wärtsilä to see whether any penalties or what liabilities the company would have to withstand. Reporting for the newsroom from the Garden of Eden power plant on the east bank of Demerara, I am Vishani Reggae.
In St. Kitts and Nevis, agitated employees of the Parks and Beaches unit staged a public demonstration in front of the Ministry of Health's headquarters, calling for the removal of the unit's leader. Glenn Bart reports.
In a public demonstration in front of the Ministry of Health, agitated employees of the Parks and Beaches unit were calling for the removal of the head of the unit. According to several demonstrators, the situation reached a boiling point as they claimed unfair treatment, the withholding of monies due to them, as well as calling for the removal of the unit's head because of what they described as his bad management. SK Newsline spoke with Glenn Buffon, one of the disgruntled workers, who was part of a team that went into a meeting with authorities at the Ministry of Health.
When we leave, we home a morning time, we leave to go to work. And it's unfair when you get on the job. You've been cheated dog and all been cheated better than you by one man. We are talking to the minister. We are inside there trying to battle this case because with the people. We're not saying we don't want to work. We are saying management is poor. And we cannot work under that environment.
Is this the only incident that has been happening?
No, man, a load of incident. Okay, imagine, let's come back to government. Government give you 3 trucks and a tractor under your watch. 2 trucks gone and the tractor gone down. What's it tell you? Why tell you? Because I know why tell me. So I'm asking you why tell you.
Yep.
Tell me poor management. We find it uncomfortable to go forward with Mr. Nisbet. Mind you, we're not saying we don't want to work. We are saying management is bad. It is poor. You can't take out advantage from people. You can't exploit people. And them are the frontline people. We got the country selling. That little piece of landscaping what we do. It's what the country need. And it's what making the country going forward. This day. Today.
The protesters marched with placards from the unit's location on the Bay Road to the Ministry of Health at Bladen's commercial site. Glenn Bart reporting for SK Newsline.
Over now to sports, and we kick off with football. As we reported yesterday, Jamaica's senior men's national team departed on Monday heading for Lima, Peru, where they will contest a friendly international on Thursday, January 20. In an update, 2 members of the Reggae Boyz 22-man squad and an official tested positive for COVID-19 and were withdrawn from the traveling party. A Jamaica Football Federation release said the players are asymptomatic and are now isolating at home. 20 players and the technical staff departed for the South American nation from the Norman Manley International Airport. The delegation left in 2 groups. Over now to cricket. West Indies captain Pollard says West Indies' batting deficiency was a major factor in the side's 2-1 series loss to Ireland in the just concluded 3-match ODI series. West Indies won the opening game by 24 runs after making 269, but the Irish rebounded to win the second game on the Duckworth-Lewis-Stern method, and the final clash by 2 wickets, chasing 213. Reflecting on the series defeat, Pollard was forthright when he said the problem lies with the regional team. More from Newsroom, Guyana.
Obviously, it's no secret. Disappointed the way that we played. Disappointed the way that we batted, throughout the entire series. And I think that's the main reason why we would have faltered, in the series. We wasn't able to put enough runs on the board. The one game where we scored 269, we were able to get over the line, but 229 and 212 at this international level is totally unacceptable.
And would you say that the lack of productivity in our batting was due to a lack of technical ability, mental strength, or something else?
I think it's a combination of everything. As I stated in the post-match, conference, I think overall, holistically, I think we have a batting problem. With all the words that you mentioned, mentally, technically, being able to assess situations, conditions, and play appropriate shots that is needed at that point in time. So, again, as I've stated, it's not just the 11 guys that is here or the 15 guys that are here, right? It's around the Caribbean, and we continue to sort of reward a guy go into Super 50, score a couple hundred runs, and then he has to play, or he has to be able to get into the team. We keep trying to chop and change, different individuals at different times, but I don't think we actually addressing the real problem. But again, having said that, it's always easier to sort of cast blame or put the responsibility on the guys that you're seeing, and as I said, as a leader and as a leader of this team, obviously I can take that mantle and I can take that responsibility that we haven't done well, and it's something that we can't hide from. But as I said before, it's not just here, it's overall across all formats, if we be totally honest.
In Kyron Pollard's opinion, what is the next step to being able to bat 50 overs in an ODI?
Again, you just need to be mentally, prepared to, to bat the conditions, bat the situations, bat for long periods, of time, sort of work on our techniques when a guy is actually spinning the ball, and different ways how we try to counteract that at different times. Different players have different ways of doing it, but obviously we need to instill that confidence, in them, and they have to be doing it on a repetitive sort of basis in order to be able to come on the field and do it. Again, due to circumstances, in terms of training camps and all these things, cricket is coming thick and fast, and COVID has really dented or hampered our progress as well as a team and all over, not only us but all over the world. But we still need to find a way to get it out. So again, we got to dig deep. I said every individual is different. For me personally, I know what I need to do, and I'm going to continue to back myself. It's something that I have done throughout the last 14-15 years of cricket, here and around the world. Maybe some of the numbers might not add up, but I'm confident that for me personally I can get out of it. But we have to find the right method in order to get that confidence in all the guys, and for us to understand what is needed. So it's a lot of work, it's hard work, but we have to be willing and ready to do that. So again, or we can sit down and just cast blame and then throw it on whoever, make changes and see if that will help. But overall, for the last how many years, you have seen that has not worked.
Over to golf. Justin Burrowes and William Knibbs will represent Jamaica at the 7th Latin America Amateur Championship between January 20 to January 23 in Casa de Campo, Dominican Republic, at the Teeth of the Dog golf course. We caught up with the players at the Norman Mann International Airport on Monday just before they boarded their flight.
First time I played this event, it was at the same course. So I've played it before. I've been to the resort twice before, so I'm kind of familiar with the area. And yeah, as I said, I've played the course before, so I kind of have an idea of what I need to do. So I'm just looking forward to it.
I'm a much better player than I was 2 years ago. So last year I barely missed out on or 2 years ago I barely missed out on the cut. I'm expecting to make the cut and be in and around contention, should I execute correctly.
They were invited by the LAAC Executive Committee on behalf of the Masters Tournament, the R&A, and the United States Golf Association, based on their position in the World Amateur Golf Ranking. Burrowes is ranked at 825, while Knibbs is ranked at 3,205. And in more sporting news, the Jamaican golfing community is mourning again due to the passing of Herman March. The Jamaica Golf Association, JGA executive, the Caymanas Golf Club family, and members of the JGA are saddened by the passing of professional Herman Marsh. Marsh was integral in the City Junior Golf program that was run by the JGA some years ago. In a release, he's described as patient, kind, and deeply respected by both the students and teachers at the inner city schools that he taught the sport. He was also part of the coaching team at UTEC in their golf program. Additionally, he taught many persons how to play the sport outside of those organized programs. During the past 3 years, he was involved in the In-Sport Summer Camp, which was conducted at the Caymanas Golf Course, aimed at youngsters in the adjoining communities. And that's our package. Join us again tomorrow for more news and sport right here on PBCJ, the People's Station.